Joseph Carrabis, if you look at his remarkable bio in the handbook, you'll find out that he's done an extraordinary number of things, which you should also just corner him later and get him to talk with you about. The reason he's here today is that Joseph is the single best person I know at looking at websites and figuring out how different people are going to measure them, not in a metrical way, but how they're going to experience them, how they're going to parse them, how they're going to interact with them, and why. So what I did on Sunday is I went into the Marketers Only meeting and I asked for some volunteers to share URLs and for us to talk about today. So here's how the game is going to be played. We're going to pop the URL up, with the exception of the first one, which I'll explain in a moment. We're going to pop the URL up. Joseph, who is very skilled at figuring out, again, how the human mind and different sorts of minds parse different sites and why, he's going to talk with us at first about, well, what is this site doing? Who is it appealing to? What sort of person? At that point, we will then go to the person whose site it is and have them tell us, what were they trying to do, why, and then we can talk about how you would have to alter the site in order to get from dream to reality. So you don't get to play. We won't put any URLs up unless someone's in the room to talk about it afterwards. It's a working session. I'm going to be the runner with the microphone. Walking around. If your site is not on the list that we have and that we're going to start up in a minute, that's fine. We'll try to get to everybody. We have an hour, and it should be all sorts of fun. So the first thing I want is, can we all just give a round of applause to welcome, he's trying to get away, my friend Joseph. So now, and I also just want to talk about, there's a certain level of awkwardness that's going to happen as I deal with just flipping back and forth.
Let me explain why this doesn't work.
From the laptop and then back in. So first thing is, Sasha, I've lost your last name. Sasha Norkin from Barnes&Noble is going to go first because she has to go. And also because I think that Barnes&Noble.com is more of an e-commerce site. Simply my stating that it's an e-commerce site, obviously we can tell who the promotion is for. But Joseph, in terms of the general thrust of the site, where would you think that people are going to look first at this and why? How does the eye proceed across the page?
Just generally speaking, I'm going to be blocking stuff. Yeah. Joseph gets very involved in his work. Generally speaking, what happens when the human mind and eye combination begins to scan any type of information, it does a clockwork. The reason it does that clockwork is because we've had roughly 7 to 10 million years of evolutionary wiring that tells us, make sure there are no lions, tigers, and bears out there, oh my, and then come in close and make sure there are no snakes close by. So whether we realize it or not, we very, very rapidly, before our brain actually triggers we're doing it, we scan like this and we come up to a rest point, which is roughly about there on the screen.
Meaning the search box?
No. Well, in this case, unfortunately, meaning the search box.
Why unfortunately?
Because search is the last bastion of poor design.
Okay.
Did you want an opinion, or did you just want me to ramble on?
No,
Anyway, we can get into where search boxes need to be on a screen, but before we get into that, one of the first challenges this screen had was that this message came up and it took a while for this to load. But you've already told me this is the most important thing because my mind says, the heck with search, this must be most important because that's where my eye stops last. You're telling me gifts for Dad, but then you're making me wait. So Dad's not important.
So you don't like the flash animation with the scrolling books because it's very pretty.
It's very pretty, and eventually the eye will focus there because it is moving, and we are designed to look for movement. However, until that comes up, if you could have something, anything, text shows up very rapidly. Text is very easy to transmit, doesn't take a lot of time to load. Have that come up, and something as simple. People love simple, especially when they're looking for stuff on the web. Something incredibly simple like best books for Dad. And then have these things show up. You've already told me they're gifts for Dad, but you have all this empty space for 5, 6, 7 seconds. Best books for Dad, and then have them march across the screen. Oh, these are the best books for Dad. This must be true because you just told me that. And look, there they are, the best books for Dad. I have to buy one.
So let me ask another question. We have the promotion, which is buying books for dads, right? So now perhaps everyone has a dad, right? Unless someone new has been created. Is the design of the overall site, forget the center well right now, is the design of the overall site appealing to anyone in particular? And Sasha, we're going to come to you next and get your questions.
Anybody in particular?
Or is it a turnoff to someone in particular? Is there someone who is going to look at this and just find it an unsatisfying experience aesthetically and therefore click to somewhere else?
The basic color scheme is going to go for a 25 to 34-year-old demographic. It's primarily going to be male-oriented.
Why?
Well, the color scheme is going to be male-oriented color scheme. 25 to 34-year-old demographic because of the placement of the biggest banner versus the actual logo and what you can actually do. That top line where it says book clubs, stores, and events is going to be ignored except on a second scan because you've shown me the logo, therefore what's underneath it must be important. And
no, go slower. Okay, the Barnes&Noble logo up at the top left corner with www.bn.com,
yes.
That, it sounds to me like what you just said is the people are looking at this, they're going to say that that's the logo and therefore nothing that's above it can be significant. Is that a fair statement? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, the mind is going to say that can't be important to me right now. So the only time they're going to go for those very topmost links is after they've done something else. They may decide the page is not giving them information they want, then they're going to go for that. But this, because it spans the entire page, is what they're going to say is a very important thing. And again, hitting the male in the age group, you're going to have toys and games and home and gift. The home and gift, of course, is going to be more female-oriented. The toys and games, well, what male doesn't want a toy and a game?
Now let me ask Sasha a question. Things that I've read here and there say that most of the people who are buying books in this fine land of ours are women. And she's nodding, and I'm going to give you the microphone. Stand up, stand up. We're going to actually, you're going to stand. This should be, master classes are supposed to be very participatory driven. So, you're saying, so what I've read and what you confirmed is that, for the most part, it's women who are buying books. Now in this case, but what Joseph is saying is about the color scheme. So just, A, is that a surprise to you? B, what questions do you have? Because we know you have to go and we're going to get to a lot of other people.
So it's interesting to me that you say men want toys and games, because those are toys and games for kids.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess what I find this design pretty busy. And I find it interesting that you say that everybody's going to search, because we do see most people going to search, which is something we don't want to happen. We want them actually to be clicking on some other things. So I guess knowing that we have women who are buying most of the books, and that we have an interest in targeting women buying things for kids, what would you do to this to make this site seem like it's friendlier to women and more attractive to them and target and head them in that direction as opposed to what we're doing?
Okay.